All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of the Outsider Podcast. Today we have my man Travis Denning on. Hails from Georgia. Whereabouts in Georgia?
Warner Robins. Smack dab in the middle of the state, pretty much.
All right.
I always say if you draw an X across the state, you're pretty close to home.
What's the closest big city?
I guess you could say Macon. It's like 30 minutes north, but Atlanta's about an hour and a half north.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of, I've never really considered Macon a big city. It's like a really good town.
Big LSU fan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, lower something. Yeah, big Georgia fan, man. Grew up that way, obsessed with it, and lot of shitty years of being a Georgia fan.
Yeah,
some really good ones lately. So I don't take it for granted.
Is this football lineage in your family for a long time, Georgia fans?
Yeah, my dad went to school there, and my grandfather graduated from there, and then my papa on my dad's side he was a season ticket holder all through my dad's life and stuff, and so it just kind of I didn't go to college. I went to Nashville, but my dad, I think my first game, I think I was 3 or 4.
Really?
And he always tells me, he's like, I took you made it one quarter. He's like, and then the next year you made it a halftime and all this, and then one specific game, and I still actually really remember it, was a Georgia Tech game. It was so cold, and we were actually losing. We were kind of getting our butts whooped. And we held up the 4s before the fourth quarter, and that was usually when we left. My dad's like, all right, you ready to get out of here? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm having fun. And that was probably about 6 or 7 years old. And my dad's like, of course you picked the game that it's freezing, we're getting our butts whooped, that you want to finally stay the whole game. But, yeah, my whole childhood, man, like Saturdays in the fall were not for sleeping in. We were getting up and driving to Athens for a home game.
I feel like a prerequisite to being a Bulldogs fan is having an incredible memory.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I remember back in '89, the third quarter, 4 minutes in, I'll be damned. You remember that pass? I feel like every Georgia fan can recite.
I think it's because there's some insanely traumatizing memories. That's what it really is. It's not. I barely remember the fun times, but I remember like my sister crying in her Georgia cheerleader costume when we lost to Auburn. Like, I remember. I remember going when we hosted Alabama. Oh, dude, this was 2009, maybe. I think we hosted them at home, and Florida lost earlier that day. We were rolling it. We might have been preseason ranked number 1. And, dude, Julio Jones came in there and just up and down the field the whole game. They embarrassed us. That was my first, introduction to Alabama football that I remember, of just not even being upset, just being like, damn. That was pitiful.
I know we're on a massive segue here, but what do you think of NIL and how it's affecting college ball?
I think the transfer portal's way worse than NIL as a whole. I think there's nothing. I think NIL.
I don't quite understand it, so I might not ask the question.
I think NIL was long overdue, and I mean the amount of money that a school like Georgia makes because of its football program. Yeah, and of course. I think the other biggest problem is right now with NIL, all we really talk about is football. Mm-hmm. But there's so many other sports. And for some colleges, basketball is bigger and baseball is bigger and things like that. I don't know, man. I just think the perpetual free agency is like killing is I'm not going to say killing the game because it's bigger than it's ever been, but I do think it's kind of killing like the passion of like what you look forward to in college football and what that brand was.
I agree.
It feels like the NFL's almost more like a little bit more loyal right now, which is crazy to think about.
Because they don't have you can't just up and leave whenever you want, right? So you're under contract.
I don't know, man. I think the transfer portal is really great for some people who just want to go play football. And then I think some people abuse it, and they'll iron it out. They'll figure it out. I do think the new playoff I really hope will make things a lot better. Because now, if you're a great player, like you can go to one of those teams that historically maybe wasn't going to get in the top 4 and have a shot. I mean, if they hit a stride, like there's no reason why, like Ole Miss or Ohio State. I mean, dude, even Missouri this last year. And I know everybody laughs at that, but like they were cruising. They took Georgia to the last 2 minutes of the game.
Whatever happened to the kicker that wore the funny goggles from Georgia?
Oh, Rex Specs. That's Rodrigo. Yeah, he went to the Colts, I believe, and I think he got hurt. and missed a year. And I guess he's still there. I'm not totally sure.
Gotcha.
But he was a stud. Dude. Rec specs.
I mean, that's what put Georgia on the map for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I like this kid.
He kicked that 50.
Yeah.
He kicked that
funny goggles come out and just kicked the piss out of the ball.
That 55-yarder in the Rose Bowl. I think that was the most important play of that game. We went in at halftime, only 2 scores down instead of 3, and it was awesome.
See, great memory.
I know, dude. All up here. All up here.
All right. So what was it like growing up in Central Georgia?
Man, I mean, pretty similar to a lot of other places, man. I mean, when I look back on those memories, like I grew up in a town that definitely wasn't small, but I don't think it was big either. So it was kind of a good mix of like.
Did you have a stoplight?
Oh, yeah. We had several. Okay. Yeah. Warner Robins is like the 10th most populated city, I think, in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
So it's like 90,000. I mean, it's like a full-on town. So, but, you know, I lived in this area called Bon Air, which was just unincorporated outside of Warner Robins. And, you know, that was pretty rural and like subdivisions and stuff like that. But like we weren't far from like Twiggs County and the Okmulgee River. And so, I mean, there was a lot of things that were small town, you know, and stuff like that. But it also felt big enough to kind of like let you dream just a little bit.
Yeah.
And like interstate was close. You could get to Atlanta close. You could get to Florida easy. So yeah, man, I don't know. It was a good balance. I mean, I feel like I went to a big school, a 5A high school that, you know, was historically great at football. They were not historically great at football when I went there, but they're great now. And so, I mean, football on Fridays, all those things, trying to find somewhere to drink a beer that I wouldn't get in trouble. I mean, kind of the same old story, but it was great, man. I really missed the pine trees, the red clay, like all those things. I missed that the most, I think.
Did you finish high school before coming to Nashville?
Yeah. I finished high school. I moved up to Nashville when I was 21. I moved up like 3 weeks after I turned 21, and I tried college. I gave Georgia State a try. And I was like, screw this, man. Like, when I graduated high school and threw that cap up, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I think you're the 3rd or 4th artist we've had on, and I think the first one to graduate high school. Oh, Dang. No, Megan did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she graduated high school, but went on to college for a bit. But yeah, so 2 out of the 4, I think, or 2 out of the 5. Did not graduate high school.
I not only graduated high school, but I did graduate with honors. I wasn't, you know.
Look at you.
I had the old sash and everything.
Now my eyes are the back.
I know, man. But I went to college and I was just sitting there going, I literally cannot make myself care about this. And so I called I literally was at dinner with my parents over like the winter break, like that first semester. And I just it was like word vomit out of me. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I freaking hate it. And I was like, I don't even think this is even going to all I'm going to do is rack up debt.
Yeah. Because
I know what I'm going to do. And I don't need a backup plan. Like, I think a backup plan is for somebody who
burn the ships.
Yeah, exactly. Freaking. And so, you know, forever growing up, my dad was my biggest fan, biggest supporter. Like, he was like, yeah, Travis is going to be a rock star. And mom was like, with honors though, you know, like, but my mom in that moment was the first one to like raise her hand and say, she was like, all right. She said, well, come home and you put together a game plan and present it to us and we'll rock with that. And so I pretty much had 3 things I wanted to do. And that was like, I wanted to move to Nashville when I was 21 because, you know, the networking here is not at the library or a coffee place. And I was like, I don't need to be sneaking in and out of bars trying to get rights booked, you know? So I was like, I'll wait till I'm 21. And I was like, in that meantime, I'm going to play any and every gig I can book and like try and get my hours in and do all that, because I'm a firm believer of like the 10,000 hours and a lot of the Malcolm Gladwell stuff. Like, so I was like, I'm gonna grind it out, you know, like here in the Southeast, just bars, restaurants, country clubs, whatever. And then I wanted to save 10 grand because I kind of crunched the numbers in my head that I was like, if I can come here with $10,000 in the bank, I can get through a year without a job. I mean, that's like scraping by. But I was like, if I had to, I could do that. As long as I don't drink it away, I'll be good, you know? And so those were the 3 things I wanted to do. And man, I moved up Nashville, 21 years old in 2 weeks with about $11,000 in the bank from playing gigs. So I crossed off every box, and that's what got me here. And I wasn't gonna move back if I got through that year and lost my money. I would have just gone and got a job, but I wanted to afford myself the opportunity to like be able to focus, you know. And my biggest goal that first year was sign a publishing deal. And in November of 2014, I signed a publishing deal with Red Creative Group and been there ever since. I'm on my third deal with them.
Good work.
Yeah.
You a big family?
So what?
Do you come from a big family?
Oh, not really, actually. I have one sister, mom and dad, and my mom has one brother, and my dad was an only child.
Are they all musically inclined? Or
not a single one of them. My mom could play the piano and things like that. And
Mailman was a hell of a guitarist.
Just shredder, dude. Shredder. He might have been related to Dwayne Allman for all I know. No. But man, but my family's huge music lovers.
Okay.
Like my dad is just obsessed with music. And so I remember him like turning me on to the Allman Brothers and Skinner, AC/DC, things like that.
That's what I grew up listening to as well.
For sure. And that's all guitar forward music, you know. So I knew I wanted to play guitar.
So what age were you when you started playing the guitar?
I was 11. Santa brought me my first guitar. Shout out Santa. But I got a electric guitar, non-acoustic, because my parents were like, all right, like we want him to stay interested, so let's get him something cool on the front end. And man, I started playing. I tried every sport, dude. Football, I got tackled and I hated it. I took a baseball to the ankle during practice. I hated that. Basketball, if you gave me 30 shots at the rim right now, I'd miss 34 of them. And soccer was just like, I don't even know what that phase of my life was. It was not good. I was like 5 years old. But so I finally picked up a guitar and I was like, that clicked. I was like, first off, I like doing this, but also that was the first thing I could get my hands on. I was like, I can see where how to wrap my head around this. And so I started taking lessons. I took lessons for about a year and a half, and kind of at the end of that, my guitar teacher at the time, his name's Pat Totaro. We still keep in touch. My mom came and picked me up one day, and he said, look, he's like, I will gladly keep taking your money. He's like, but we're learning songs, and he comes in and he knows it. He's like, so we're kind of just like playing guitar at this point. And he was like, I could teach him to read music, but I don't really think that's like matters for him. And so we had that conversation, and I was like, well, what do I do now? He's like, well, just play guitar. Just like join a band, like do whatever you want to do. And so that was just, I guess I was 14 and a half or 12 and a half or 13 at the time. And I just kept playing, man. I would come home from school, and literally until dinner time, I'd play guitar.
Would you pull up tabs on songs that you wanted to learn?
Oh, yeah. I'd go to ultimateguitar.com. Shout out. That was a game changer for guitar player, man. And yeah, dude, that was that. And I had I had the AC/DC, the definitive tab book. It was like this big. And man, by the time I was done with that, it was like busted at the seams and everything. But yeah, man. And I played in like a little, garage punk band, garage metal band, just trying to sound like the music we liked and stuff. And then I loved heavy music, like anything where the guitar was forward,
like Pantera, Metallica.
And Metallica were like the first big ones that were across that like classic rock threshold where it was more metal. And then I am 14, 15 years old, I kept progressing. And so like Lamb of God and Slipknot, and then metal. And then all of a sudden it's like at 15 and a half years old, I walked into a Walmart with my mom and sister, and I saw this CD on the rack that my best friend had. And I was like, well, he really likes that. And it's not really what I listen to, but I'm going to buy it. And it was John Mayer's Continuum record. And I was just like, holy shit. I was like, what is this? Like, I've been missing out on this. And for me, it was like the blues and like the guitar driven thing. And the fact that John Mayer was like a pop artist, but the guitar, drove the ship. And then it was just a combination of that and the blues and Southern rock. And then when I started sitting down trying to write songs, I'd say late high school is when I truly connected with country music for the first time.
What artists would you listen to back then?
The earliest country music I loved was like John Anderson and Alan Jackson. But But man, like I listened to what was on the radio. So like Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan were just massive. And Aldean's from 30 minutes north of where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So I really connected on that because I was like, well, shit, this dude from right here went and did it. Like, why couldn't I? He made it a reality. And so, yeah, man, Aldean, Luke Bryan.
They're both from Georgia, aren't they?
Yeah, they both are, yeah. And then just, God, Keith Urban, man, Lady Antebellum, like just all those things at that time. I just loved it so much. And then, of course, I went to the Well after that. And it was George Strait, Shenandoah, David Allan Coe, like on the outlaw side, just so many great artists and songwriters and stuff. And I connected to it then because then I was like, all right, they're singing about the life that I'm living, and that's where it finally made sense.
You just named pretty much everyone that I like as well. So I grew
you
up
put that on a playlist, I'm good for probably 3 years before I'd have to change it.
So before you moved to Nashville, I take it is when the fake ID story happened.
Yeah, that was definitely right before I moved. Obviously, I had some buddies that went to Georgia and they were crushing it, and I was not in college. And so I was like, oh, you're going out on Thursday? I can drive up there and come hang out with you. And my buddy Michael Perleone, who still a great friend to this day, man, he called me and just goes, dude, he was like, I was walking out of Bourbon Street last night, which is a bar in Athens. And he's like, I found an ID on the floor. He's like, skinny white boy buzz haircut. I mean, it kind of looks like me and you. I was like, hell yeah, like I was like, and $140 pounds, perfect, 10 over where I'm at right now, and so it was like his ID, but like he'd like let me, we'd like do pass backs, or if I was like, hey, I'm going to Milledgeville this weekend, can I borrow the ID? And yeah, that was Ashley David Parker was his name, and it just. That was our fake ID, and it died the same fake ID death most do, which is a bouncer finally called bullshit and kept it for himself. But
then sold it to some other kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sold it to some other kid for beer money, and we lost the ID at a bar called General's, which is funny because that's usually my favorite place to stop in when I'm in Athens now. So yeah, man. So I wrote that song. I actually had the idea for the song like while I had it. When I was really? 19 or 20, I remember I played a show and I told my guitar player at the time, I was like, dude, I want to write a song one day that's just the name of this ID. And he was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But like, I was like writing songs, but it was like ABC 1, 2, 3. Like I was, learning the craft of songwriting. And 2016, I sat down with Jesse Alexander and John Randall, and it just like I cannot even explain to you why in that moment I thought about it again, but I'd never written it down, like anything. I just said, dude, I had this idea. I was like, I think he'd be called David Ashley Parker, and I explained it, and John Randall just goes, he's like, that is awesome. He's like, let's write that. And we wrote it in like 2 hours. I mean, it was just like, boom.
That's epic.
It was awesome, dude. I
got my fake ID, my first one. At the time I was living in the Bay Area, just north of San Francisco. So someone told us like, oh yeah, go down on, I think it was Mission Street, real shithole of an area.
Yeah.
And go to like this door and knock on it. And you could pay, I think it was like $300 or $400 for a fake ID. So I had to found some money, went down there and knocked on this door. And this is in the hood. Like this is not a good area.
Yeah.
They come in, they take your photo, and all this, they take your money, then they say, come on back in an hour or whatever, and they have it. And
that's like a full-on operation.
Oh yeah, it was real legit.
Yeah.
And so I'm in there with my buddy, and I forget, I couldn't remember the name I put on my fake ID, but he blacks out. He goes, Christopher Robbins, and I look at him. I'm like, Christopher Robbins? I'm like, from fucking Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, the dude had the bear. What the heck?
He's like, dude, that's the only name I could think of, right? And I was under the gun. So then, fast forward, we're using our fake IDs here and there. We're in a Safeway, like grocery store, buying beer. And this is late, I think it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And there's not many people in the parking lot at all. I told him like, hey, wait in the parking lot. I'm going to go and buy beer. And there's a cop in the parking lot. So we're already, worried.
On edge.
Go to the checkout register, with some beer. And the lady looks at it and she's like, hold on, let me call manager. The manager looks at it and looking at me, and they know something's up. They're like, hold on, we have to call the proper authority, which I thought they were going to call the cop in the parking lot. They're standing there and they're talking to each other, and The guy looks right, and when he looked right, I snatched that ID out of his hand and hit that door
You're
at 100 mile
gone,
an hour. I'm like,
So
first of all, I don't have another $300.
Yeah, yeah. I
and
really
I'm not
gotta
going
keep
back
this
to
one.
work
Yeah.
with the shithole that I got it at.
Dude, we used to go to, there was a gas station in front of this neighborhood that a buddy of ours had a pool at their house. And so all summer they were like, yeah, you can go to that gas station, and they don't give a damn, dude. So we'd go in there without an ID and just, I'll never forget. I was with Michael Perleone again, and we put some beer up there, and I will never forget this. It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. He puts the beer up there, and it's like, I know I already look young for my age, but like at 18, dude, I looked like a 12-year-old. And Michael wasn't much older looking than me. He set it up there, and the clerk goes, what year were you born? And without even thinking, literally Michael goes, 83. And the dude just goes, okay. He said 83. I'm like, it's like, dude, that is, go for like 88 or something. He just goes, 83. And the dude goes, sounds good. He just freaking sold it to us.
You know, once you, because we had that gas station too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
once you find that spot, you don't buy beer anywhere else.
Oh, dude,
and
just
we went outside our
loaded up.
comfort zone because we were in a pinch. We are probably trying to meet up with some girls, and we messed up, and I almost got caught. So
Yeah.
then it's like, hey, we're going right to the Shell station over in this part of the neighborhood because the guy just doesn't give a shit.
Doesn't care, dude. There was another one we went to one time and put the beer up. Michael's like, he said, you have ID? And he said, no. He goes, I can't sell it to you. And Michael just had this unabashed confidence. He goes, really? You can't sell me this? And I'm like, damn. And the guy literally just goes, he looks out the window and goes, where'd you park? He's like, on the other side of the building. He said, bring your vehicle around. And literally he pulls his trucker out, and he sees it's just like not a cop car. And he's like, all right, $18. I was like, dang, dude, awesome.
Good dude.
Shout out those gas stations. I won't tell you where they are. I don't want you to get in trouble.
So post fake ID extravaganzas, you moved to Nashville. Where'd you live? What was that first year of grinding like?
Oh, man. I lived in Hermitage off of Bell Road, actually really close to Percy Priest. I lived in an apartment with my buddy Jordan, and we split it. It was like $500 a person, just crappy little 2-bedroom apartment like anybody else, 15 minutes outside of town. That was like, if you moved to Nashville pursuing like music and you had no money, you either lived in Hermitage or Bellevue. It was like one, it was just 15 minutes on both sides. And yeah, dude, it's so wild, man. I look back and it seems so like yesterday, yet a million years ago. But just, dude, I went to everything. I went to every writer's round, every whiskey jam. I just tried to write with anybody I could. My best friend, his name is Cole Taylor. He's a great songwriter. He's had 3 number ones, a lot of cuts. He had signed a publishing deal. And so he was kind of, grinding and starting to elevate his rights in the rooms he was with. And so I just was kind of hand on the coattail there and just trying to hang on if he could get me in those rooms and stuff. And yeah, man, it was, I feel very fortunate that I feel like my career as a songwriter has always just kind of just slowly done this. I never felt like it was going down or that it was flat. I had one moment in May or June of that first year where I was like, damn, dude, I hope I know what I'm doing, and probably about a week later, Jeremy Stover called me into his office and we had lunch, and he asked me what I wanted to do with my, with my life pretty much. And I said, well, I was like, I can play guitar, so I could be a guitar player for somebody. I was like, and maybe I could be like the touring guitar player that writes songs, because that was starting to happen.
Yeah.
Used to, it was like everybody was individual, but now you got to be a little bit of everything. And I said, yeah, I think I could do that. It'd be kind of cool to have some hits and then go scratch the itch touring as a guitar player. And I was like, but I said, I also kind of want to be like the guy, I kind of want to be the artist. And he told me, he said, well, I think you can do any of those. He said, but I really think you could be the artist. And he said, I'd like to offer you a publishing deal. He's like, I got to figure out some things on the business side, but he's like, I'd really like to work with you. I was like, hell yeah. And so about 4 months later, I signed my publishing deal and everything. And then just that next year, 2015, was just like finally it was like, all right, I'm gonna make rent and can feed myself some McDonald's and stuff, and I'll be, and I can go drink at the bar and live like a king on like $25,000. I was like, killer. And yeah, dude, I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and my first cut came, I think, right at the end of 2015, and that was I had 2 songs on Justin Moore's record, Kinda Don't Care, and then I had a song on Jason Aldean's They Don't Know record, and then 2016, it was like it started. I had a Chase Rice single and a couple things getting cut, and then some attention from labels. And it was just every year, it just slightly got better. And at the end of 2016, I went on my first tour. Cole Swindell took me, John Langston, and Cole Taylor out, which was awesome because we were all unsigned. And Cole was just like, I had a helping hand early on too, and I want to return the favor.
Do you see that a lot in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it happens more now than ever. I think we've gotten more, like, in some ways, kind of campy. Like these people have their things and they don't bust out of it, which sometimes that's like difficult, I think, from like a collaboration side a little bit. But I think it's great. Like, I'm watching right now with like Ernest. Like Ernest is signing all these young writers and they're doing great. And like Chandler Walters, I wrote with him 2 days ago, and he plays for Ernest, but he's been writing with, like, he's just taking him under his wing. And now he's a co-writer on I Had Some Help, which is going to be the biggest song of all time, probably. Like, it's just, I love seeing that because that's what Nashville is about, is like the next generation.
So I know a lot of people come, obviously there's a lot of folks that come here to be, get into country music and be a star, what have you. What is the difference in the people that make it and the people that don't? Because there's really good musicians and talented singers,
Man, that's such a great question because I think it's a handful of things. At the core of it, the reality is sometimes it just doesn't line up.
Yeah.
Like if that person does everything right and they're talented and they have the songs and all this, like there's just unfortunate times where, like, because dude, I can tell you exactly how I got my record deal, and it's very specific to some people and timing and moments that lined up. Like it's very, I can lay it out. It's like this person got a job at this place, and and then this person believed in me, and it's just so lucky. But the things that do matter are the things you can control, and they don't take any talent, right? And that applies for everything, like showing up on time, just being a good person, being nice, being considerate, reaching out. I think things like that, because dude, there's a lot of people who get super far off of nothing but the merit of the fact that people like rooting for them. And if you have that combined with great art, then you will be unstoppable.
I really think that you personally, as a human being, you create your own scenario, right? The stars, the universe does come into play, the stars align, whatever you want to call it. But you being there on time, showing up, people rooting for you, that just someone didn't meet you, and that happened. So I've asked this question a couple times, and I think, it boils down to who you surround yourself with and the type of, grit you have and how bad you really want it.
Absolutely.
You show up on time because you want it. You surround yourself with people better than you because you want to be like them, and so on and so forth. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. And I think, man, I do think this town throws everybody a break at some point. I think I was told early on, man, and I still think it's so important. Like, it is not, back to me saving up that money, and people be like, well, were you going to leave if you spent all your money? I was like, no. I'd go work at McDonald's, or I'd go do whatever I do to make rent and so I could be here. It's not the person who can stay for 8 years. It's the person who stays for 8 and says, I'm going to stay for the 9th year. Like, I'm going to stay one more year and I'm going to keep doing this, because it's not like, I'm not going to say it's not hard. It's incredibly hard. But at the end of the day, what is luck defined as? It's just preparation meets opportunity. So the opportunity side of it sometimes is the X factor, but the preparation is not. And, if you hang around enough, the opportunity like that, it just happens, you know? And I think that's just so important, man. Like, there's so many great producers and songwriters who, like, And dude, I look at Jesse Alexander as one of my best friends in the songwriting community. She was my first like A-list co-write. Like the first time I ever wrote with somebody who had a lot of hits, knew all these people. And she literally was moving in, her and JR were moving into their new house. She had bunny ears set up on the TV just so she could watch something. And I was on Channel 5 playing like tunes and song, just some little, local channel thing. She liked my voice, wrote my name down, figured out who I worked with. She called Stover and said, I'd like to write with Travis. And she's one of my songwriting heroes, like one of my top 5 favorite writers of all time. And so I was like, all right, I got to go in there and write the most badass fucking song I could ever imagine. And I literally, my first write with her was her and Chase McGill, who Chase is a Hall of Fame songwriter. He's going to be first ballot when he comes up, another close friend. And we wrote Southern Rock, which is on my record with Hardy. I mean, that was the first song I wrote with her.
Being in a room like that, do nerves ever get in the way of your creativity?
Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta punt it to the side. You gotta sit there and go like, look, I'm in here for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes it's just, that happens so many times, right?
Yeah.
Being around artists that I admired and things, like I've definitely just sat there like a dumbass in front of George Strait and Alan Jackson and just been like, didn't know what to say. But dude, you just, if it doesn't make you nervous, then it probably doesn't matter enough. So then like when you think about that and then you just go, I'm supposed to be here, just give it a second, it'll calm out. Yeah.
I find that, even when I do podcasts or meet new people or talking to someone on the phone about a business deal, it's a hard thing to channelize. And some folks just can't get over it, and whether it be, selling records or selling drinkware. And so my hat's off to you, especially being in a room with George Strait and Alan Jackson, because I think I might just sit there and be a blubbering idiot.
I just shake their hands like, hey, cool, see you, bye. I'm just like, but yeah, and that, I think part of a lot of that you do work through in those first couple of years living in Nashville. Cause like, dude, you might go to the bar one day and, there might be Darius Rucker might be in there getting a drink, or you might see Keith Urban at a guitar store, and like that just happens. They live here, and so you work through that, you iron it out. And I do think it does take a little bit of like blissful ignorance. Like you just got to be like, screw it, I'm just gonna, like talk to somebody and do it. And they either go like, the hell was that dude doing, or they go, oh, I kind of like that guy, So and at the end of the day, none of those are going to affect the next song you write. So it's just.
So you mentioned Darius Rucker, and you just played golf with him, or went to his golf tournament. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I had too many transfusions. I had a case of the shaky doodles this morning. I was a little, but not my worst hangover, not the best. And man, I this is my second time playing his golf tournaments for benefits St. Jude, and man, it's just so fun. Like, dude, Darius is like. You want to talk about, he could be a surgeon, I think. Like just calm, dude. Like his hands would be so perfect. The dude is so relaxed all the time, and he's a great hang. He just centers you really well. And we had fun. I had not swung a golf club in 3 years until yesterday.
Did you play a lot of golf growing up or anything?
I never did, dude. Yeah. That is golf was such a foreign thing to me. Like my dad golfed. And like I grew up around a lot of golf courses and country clubs, like just some small ones in Warner Robins. But I didn't start golfing until I'm like, oh, everybody in country music golfs. I'm like, I probably need to do this to network. But dude, my golf swing looks like this. That's my golf swing. It's on the front of my Ranger, dude. And I love fishing, dude. That is my obsession. And I got a few fishing buddies. Luckily, they haven't sold their soul to the driver yet.
So what's your favorite type of fish to fish for and method to fish for that fish?
I love a smallmouth bass. That's the best thing in the world. And any form of setting the hook. So like I love throwing a shaky head. That's probably my favorite thing. So I love pulling them up off the bottom. I love feeling them pick it up, and that moment between that, when I set the hook, I'm like, I'm about to ruin this fish's day. And I mean, I like a crankbait bite. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's something great about rearing back on one.
I love topwater largemouth.
Yeah, that's as fun as it gets.
And or if you're hammering good sized crappie.
Oh yeah,
I love doing that.
I love doing that. Just you're holding that rod and you just pick it straight up and it just bends over. Yeah.
Ice fishing. Have you ever been?
Never done it yet. I've had a few opportunities that just hadn't lined up. I really want to. I think the greatest fishing state in America is Wisconsin.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they've got
You
all
know,
the
Minnesota
fish.
has 10,000 lakes.
I know, but Wisconsin's got like 3,000. Wisconsin and Minnesota are pretty much the same. It's like take away the border, it's one big state. But I love Wisconsin. You know, and you get cheese curds after you're fishing.
I really
bro.
love a mean cheese curd. So Wisconsin, is it mainly walleye? Is that the main target fish up there?
Dude, they got.
I haven't fishing walleye.
Well,
or
their
no,
state
Wisconsin.
state fish is the muskie. So
That's on my bucket list.
yo,
Muskie.
dude, that's my number one right now. I haven't caught yet, but so St. Croix rods. That's what I fish with, and they're in Park Falls, Wisconsin, and they're really great guys. But I fished with Pat Schlopper, one of their pros, and I performed at one of their customer appreciation days. Like they're just a good hang. But first off, like super upstate Wisconsin, like where you're almost to the border, it might be one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. And we fished it in June, dude, and we're on this lake and we're pulling smallmouth off of beds that are 9 feet below us, and I can see them as clear as that camera stand. Like the water is crystal clear. And I've never experienced anything like in Tennessee. I'm like, oh, we got 2 foot of visibility. What a beautiful day. You know, I could actually see my bait towards the boat, you know, and I just loved it, man. I think it's so great. They have great smallmouth, great crappie fishing, perch. It's just all those things that like I don't get to do all the time.
Do you have? I just used one recently, so I'm gonna botch the name. It's this new sonar that's out that you could.
Forward facing sonar.
Yeah. What's that called?
Live scope. Yeah.
I used one of those crappie fishing not too long ago.
Oh, it's the best.
Oh, and it was colder than shit. And my buddy was like, "Move it to the right, down, over." He's like, "You're right in front of it. Give it a little pop. Give it a little pop." He's like, "Oh, he's on it."
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit! Let me see this thing.
I've got live scope on my boat, and for bass fishing, like sometimes you see them eat it, but for me, I just love it because I know exactly what's under the boat, and that's if I'm off a ledge or something, and I'm like I can point it and be like, all right, the ledge is 30 feet that way, so I need to throw 50 feet and bring it across there, you know, and it's also, I think the best thing it does is it tells you where fish ain't. I mean, that's the biggest thing is everybody's like, well, I need to find fish. No, bro. If you pull up and you don't see nothing but the bottom, go to another spot. They ain't, trust me, that thing is showing you a picture of what's there and they ain't there. I love it. I think it's great. I think anybody who complains about it either can't afford it or they just don't want to adapt to the new ways of fishing. I think it's so stupid. Do
they allow it in tournaments?
They do. Yeah, they allow it on everything. Now on, like in the MLF, I think in heavy hitters, like when they do things like that, they do. I think everybody's on the same boat. Like they don't even bring their own boat, so it'll be like a tournament boat with all the same screens.
Yeah,
but
so
just
it's the same loadout for everybody.
Yeah. But the same, but like just like Elite Series tours and like MLF, just their tours. I think it's whatever the hell you want, pretty much. And you know, I'm sorry, I get it, and I get that like it's changing, and some people are upset, but like people sit there and they try to say that these pros are only catching these fish because of this, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, put Jacob Wheeler and Kevin Van Dam in a John boat and you in a John boat, they will smoke you by 30 pounds. I'm like, these guys are not professionals because they got cool buttons and stuff. Like they're pros because they're great.
Have you seen, you mentioned muskie was on your bucket list as well. Have you seen the method of ice fishing with spears for muskie?
I have, yeah.
I would love to do
wild.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
You hang a walleye lure down there and you just chill.
And you just, wait for them to come along. It's almost like a bladed jig kind of, and they just sit there with it and just maybe pop it. Yeah.
My wife's family, they're all from South Dakota and Minnesota, so they do a lot of ice fishing.
Yeah.
I would highly suggest it. Going up early season or late season, and even if you're going out ripping perch, I mean, it's just it's a good time.
I've heard it's a great place to drink a zillion beers too.
I mean, if you don't like drinking beers, you might not like ice fishing.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I'm just going to put that out there.
That sounds super fun. Yeah.
Little schnapps, you know?
Yeah. Jordan Davis went ice fishing one time, and I saw the pictures. I was like, each slide, I'm like, his eyes are getting smaller and smaller. He's getting a little bit more like this. I was like, damn, I wish I was there right now.
Jay and I and a group of us, we went ice fishing up in the Lake of the Woods in Minnesota. And we caught, some fish, a couple really nice northerns, but I mean, moral of the story is we drank 2,000 beers.
Yeah, exactly. Had a blast. I mean, that's like golfing yesterday. I'm like, I shot Briley Parkway, bro. I shot 155, like a million over, but I drank 5 transfusions and got Zaxby's. I mean, it was a great day. I just fried chicken, French fries, and vodka. I was like, there's nothing better.
You guys didn't play a scramble?
We did play a scramble, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying, myself. We actually shot 16 under, but we had a ringer.
Who was in your foursome?
Dude, these 3 dudes that I met them all like yesterday for the first time.
Really?
They bought in for the charity and stuff.
Yeah.
And but there was this guy with us named Parker, and he was a stick.
Yeah.
He was awesome. So we were using his ball pretty much the whole tournament, but it was fun.
I'm not the best golfer, but I'm a hell of a scramble partner because I'll just, all of a sudden just hit one right by the hole at 180 yards.
Dude, we took one of my putts, so I was happy about that.
There you go.
Yeah, but not many of my shots, but I just, like I said, dude, when COVID hit and it was like, all right, everybody was deciding what hobby they were going to have. Mm-hmm. I was golfing a lot, and I got to where I was shooting like 92, 93.
There you go.
Which I was like, this is fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just having fun out here. And then I caught a 6-pounder on Old Hickory off a bed, and I was like, I'm not golfing ever again, dude. I literally bought a boat the next week, was like, this is the great. I fished 5 days a week until December. Like, I loved it, man.
I'm playing in my buddy's country club's member guest, I think in July. I don't think it's this month. I think it's next month. And so I drove up there on Monday to play the course and drop off some shit for work. But we played 27 holes. I went out there and blew it out my ass the first 9 holes.
That's
I shot
freaking grind.
57, and then I shot a 42,
there
which I was thrilled about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I found that perfect, 5 beer, 1 gummy stroke.
Yeah, there you go. That's why I will say I literally got 3rd transfusion down, and then I got a high noon, and then I ripped a drive just straight. I was like, and what was funny was Darius was in the group behind us, and he was on the green, and he saw me do it. He's like, hey, I saw that, Trav. I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The cart girl just gave me my drink. I was like, that's an assist on you right there. I appreciate that.
I do think proper lubrication is,
Oh, dude, swing oil, dude.
Yeah.
Birdie juice.
Mm-hmm.
So you need it.
So you're married.
Yep.
How long you been married? How did you meet your wife?
We just celebrated 1 year, May 20th.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so
I saw a picture of her on your Instagram. You really outkicked your coverage on that one, so great job.
Big time, yeah. I'm doing that in all aspects of life these days, which is great. Everybody's like, talks about imposter syndrome. I'm like, shit, I got it just with my wife. I'm like, yeah, no, I earned this for sure. No, I met her at Losers, True Nashville Love Story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You and isn't that where Megan and Mitchell met too?
Oh, probably.
I think she told that story.
I see Megan and Mitchell there all the time. Yeah. So yeah, that's our favorite bar, man. I mean, it's just it's everybody's favorite. It's like it's kind of like the last like just true like, I mean, it's world famous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tourists in there, but it's like it just doesn't feel like it's been eaten up by the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I met her CMA Fest 2018. She was at Tin Roof, and I was at Tin Roof, and her group of friends
Broadway
were hanging out. No, Tin Roof on de Montbreal.
Okay.
And one of her friends was kind of shouldered up with one of my buddies, and so I was kind of like, all right, the groups are kind of overlapping, and I asked my buddy Rob, I was like, let me know if y'all go anywhere because I might break away, come with y'all. He's like, we're gonna go to Losers. I was like, all right, cool. So go to Losers. And she's actually not really drinking, and neither was I because I think I had a lot of stuff the next day. There's a couple drinks, but all her friends are hammered. All my friends are hammered. So we just sit down and talk because she's like, this guy doesn't seem belligerent,
Yeah.
And it was so funny, man. I remember talking to her, and I was like, this is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. And she's like, she goes, hey, I'm going to go get a drink. She said, but will you come with me? Because like these dudes have kind of been hitting on me the last couple of times I've gone over there. She's like, just be my pretend boyfriend. I'm like, She's in love with me. Like
I love love too.
Yeah. I was like, if you're saying that, you're in love with me, you know. And it's pretty funny because it turns out she definitely was not at the time. And but dude, she was like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, here we go. I'm actually a Universal Music Group recording artist. She's like, "Oh, what song do you sing?" I'm like, "Dave Ashley Parker from Powder Springs." "Oh yeah, the Fake ID song. I know that one." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, my dad was an artist
back at it.
Yeah,
boys.
back at it." And I'm about to set the hook. She goes, "Yeah, my dad was an artist back in the '90s." Like, "Oh, cool. Like, what was his name?" She goes, "John Michael Montgomery." I was like, "Well, this trick ain't gonna fucking work." I was like, "Damn it!" And then I was like, everything. I was like, "All right, well, I gotta go. See you later." And we were just friends for. I mean, we followed each other on Instagram, and we were buddies for like about 6 months. Like, I mean, we like never really was like. I mean, I definitely was semi pursuing her, but I was also like, I don't know. She just doesn't seem that into it. And then, man, New Year's Eve downtown at Luke Bryan's bar. She ended up being there at like 12:30. I was like, "Oh, hey, good to see you."
Just finished kissing some other guy.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, and she goes, it's like 12:30, and she's a little lit, and I'm a little lit. And dude, she came up to me. She goes, "Have you had a New Year's Eve kiss yet?"
Oh, so you got it.
I was like, "No, ma'am." I was like, and so, she kissed, and you would have thought we had been married for years. The way we were like laying all over each other, we were holding hands, all this. I'm like, well, I think she does like me a little bit. And man, it was so funny. The night ended, and she goes, I'm heading to my apartment. I'm going back to Kentucky tomorrow. I said, "All right." She goes, "But you can call me tomorrow and ask me out on a date." I said, "All right." And I called her, and she's like, "I'll be back in February." I'm like, "All right." But then we went out on a date and all that, and started. We say like St. Patrick's Days roughly when we were like, "All right, I'm your boyfriend, you're my girlfriend" kind of deal of 2019. So been married a year.
Congratulations, my man.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Does she go on the road with you often?
She came to the indie show this past weekend. Her best friend is Callie Hardy, Hardy's wife, and so the four of us spend a lot of time together and stuff, like dinner and whatnot. Yeah. And now that we're on the road right now, it's been awesome. We were
perfect.
Me and Hardy. I was like, we're going to have to get Callie and Madison their own damn bus. But yeah, she's going to come. She's coming out on a run, I think in a couple weeks, and then she's going to come to Red Rocks and stuff. But she comes to the fun stuff.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
If I was married to you.
When I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing, somewhere in the Midwest," she's like, I don't know. I'm like, "The fans are the best there." She's like, "When are you playing LA again?" I'm like, "Oh, of course, yeah." "When are you playing New York?" "Okay, yeah."
So a question I ask, or I try to remember to ask every artist that we have on here is, what's one story from the road that really stuck out for you? I'm going to say crazy story, like something messed up, something hilarious, something like that.
Well, the most recent one that is like, I've got two. The short one is I played a show in Texas. Actually, this is the best story. I'm just going to tell you this one. So I play the show in Texas.
Whereabouts in Texas?
Dude, that's such a great question. I cannot remember, but it was we played this this little rodeo arena. We were opening for Scotty McCreery, but the show was a public show. They sold tickets to it, but it was put on by this bank called UBank, and they're an independent bank in Texas. They're really big, and I mean they're actually really nice people. They're great, and they're always like, "Man, if you when you need a loan," I'm like, I don't. That's the last thing I need again on something. But they work with a lot of musicians and sports folks and stuff. And so I was talking to the head of the bank. He's like, "Yeah, man, we work with Ray Lewis, some really some great players, and
trying to get you a line of credit."
Yeah, all that, And he goes, "When Vic gets here later, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Vic." I said, "Michael Vick?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "He's one of our best clients, and he's coming just because he wanted to support this show." I said, "If I don't meet Michael Vick, I'm not playing the show." I was like, "That's like, dude, I'm born and raised in Georgia. That's like my hero, And he's like, "Oh, dude, I'll bring him back to meet you." So Vic comes back, and dude, I shake his hands like, you're back to your whole nerves. I'm just like, I just go, "Dude, I'm from Warner Robins." I'm like, "Rise up, baby. Like, go Falcons, dude." And he's like, "Hell yeah, man." We take a picture. He goes back and he sits down at his table.
And you guys start fighting pit bulls.
I was waiting.
Please.
I'm waiting for
I mean, come on, it's Michael Vick. I gotta make the joke.
I was waiting for it. Hey, he's the true testament to redemption. And so he was sitting with. I knew. I could see it in your eyes.
Oh, yeah, I was
The
just
twinkle in
waiting to
your
get in
eyes.
there.
I knew it. He's coming. Love you, Vic. And dude, he was sitting with a friend of mine. And my buddy texts me, he goes, hey, Vic wants to make a drink before a show. I said, bring him to the bus. So he comes on the bus, make him a drink. Dude, he's like as sweet as can be. He's just so nice. He's like, man, this tour bus is cool. Like, you're in this all year. I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, unfortunately, I got to pay for it, too. And I said, but, it's kind of our home on the road. We can keep our stuff here. I got some clothes back there. We got pickleball stuff. And I go, I got the Xbox over here. He goes, I saw that. And I go, you want to get your ass whooped in Madden real quick? And dude, it gets quiet on the bus. He goes, man, turn the shit on. Let's go. I'm sitting on my bus playing the Madden guy, dude. Michael Vick, the Vick rule, right? You couldn't play the Falcons when he was 99. And I'm playing him in Madden on my bus. I'm like, this is what dreams are made of. And I beat him on the last play with 12 seconds left, dude.
Solid work.
I got a picture of me and him pointing at the screen. And so that's one of the, I called my dad. That's one of the greatest ever. And then, leaving Chad Kruger's hotel room at 3:00 in the morning in Toronto is another good one. Shout out Nickelback. Chad, you're the best. That's a fun one.
What happened there? You just go old school and break some shit?
Just a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
He goes, he's like, we need to get some drinks. I played a show in Toronto and he was just there for press. And he's a good friend. And we hung out and he's like, call the front desk and order some drinks. I'm like, all right, what should I order? He's like, a bottle of Jack, a bottle of vodka, and mixers. I was like, bet. I called down. I was like, hello, this is Chad's room. Just like, I don't know. And man, we sat there and he like played us the new Nickelback record and all that. And it was my drummer's birthday and got a great video of him wishing him a happy birthday. And me and my manager are leaving. We're walking out the door and Chad goes, hey, Aaron's going to hang back with me. And I look at Aaron, he's like, so I go downstairs. I'm like, we'll wait 5 minutes. I call Aaron. Chad answers. He goes, I'm not going to hurt him. I just want someone to drink with. We had an 8:30 flight the next day. And I see Aaron in the airport. I go, well? He goes, well, I got back to my hotel room at 6:45 in the morning, grabbed my stuff, and here I am. I was like, my God, bro. They just stayed up all night drinking and listening to music.
I hate flying hungover.
Oh, dude, I can't do it. I'll have a panic attack if I do that.
I've put myself in some shitty situations on a plane.
Dude, rough, dude.
Next question I always ask, where were you the first time you heard your song on the radio?
I was in Virginia Beach at the Norva. And
what?
Yeah.
I lived in Virginia Beach for the last 17 years.
For real? Heck
yeah, I've been in Norva tons of times.
Dude, the Norva's awesome. I was opening for Chase Rice in 2017.
There's a chance my wife was there.
Yeah, dude. It was sick, man. I love the Norva. It's fun. We toured with Riley Green in 2019 and we ended the tour there and I crowd surfed. It was awesome.
I saw Eric Church there a long time ago and a couple of my buddies ended up partying with him. One of my buddies ends up on his bus and wakes up in New York.
Yeah, that'll happen. Dang, that's epic.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, good luck.
They're still good friends to this day.
That's pretty awesome.
He's like, no, I ain't going home. Let's go.
Dude, I'm telling you, like those were fun times. But I got in the car and the head of Mercury, Damon Moberly, was like, yeah, we're going to do a quick phoner. And so we're sitting he had the phone out like this and he's like, I'm just waiting on him to call me, man, all this. And it's like, it happened right there.
So he knew it was coming.
And he was filming me like this and got it all. But yeah, that was pretty cool, man. And it was David Ashley Parker. That was my first single. So that was cool to hear.
Legit. I'm glad it happened in it's technically Norfolk, right?
Yeah, Norfolk, yeah.
But in Virginia Beach, your boy.
Vic from up there.
Yep,
Yeah.
From Newport News.
He did tell me, he was like, dude, I throw a huge foundation event. He's like, I want to have you play it one year. I was like, hell yeah. And then I never heard from him.
Pet friendly event.
Good Lord. We got to change the subject. It's my boy, man. It's my hero we're talking about.
I know. All right. Tell everybody what you have going on right now.
New album is out. Roads That Go Nowhere came out a couple weeks ago, I guess. And we're out with Hardy on the Quit tour and just anywhere and everywhere in between they'll have us, man. It's a fun summer right now.
Where can everybody find you?
TravisDenning.com, anywhere with a blue check mark. I'm not the one asking you for Visa gift cards. So yeah, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff.
And you're flying up to Toronto today, this afternoon.
I'm bussing up to Toronto.
Bussing?
Yeah.
How long of a drive is that?
It ain't short. I'll tell you that.
No shit.
Well,
Don't get arrested at the border.
actually, weirdly enough, Toronto is only like 12 hours, but with a bus, that makes it probably like 14.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the reason you have to leave early is because you never know how the border is going to be.
Yeah, I know. I got some buddies that put themselves in a little bit of pickle.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, everybody we talk about borders, we talk about all these things. I'm like, bro, Canada's the hardest damn country to get into.
That's a fact.
Like they are just like, they're hardcore, dude. I mean, now I've had every experience, but when you pull through like with a bus, it is a roll of the dice, dude. It's like the first time I ever went through was up near Vancouver, going into Abbotsford, and we rolled up and we had all our paperwork, manifest, everything, all this stuff. And that agent didn't even make us get off the bus. He just said, all right, he said, I'm going to call out names and just pop your head out. So we did that, went right back to sleep. And then I went to, I guess, Boots and Hearts recently, and we went up through Detroit. I later found out they tell you don't go through Detroit ever. Ever don't go through it. And dude, we sat there for 2 hours.
Really?
Just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have a manifest, and they're like, well, this is not a manifest. I'm like, that is a manifest. That's what we've all, it's just, we sit there and I'm like, and then you sit there and you're like, are they going to let us through? And then they just let you. It's just it's so weird, man. Sometimes it's just so up in the air. I think it's who you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And what type of day they're having.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, my man.
Dude, thanks, bro. This was fun.
Yeah. And safe travels. I hope you don't get arrested at the border.
Me too. And, I'm going to take your drinkware, though, and make a drink for the road when I get on the bus.
There you go. I appreciate you. My man, thanks so much.
Brother.
Yes, sir.